First, we discuss about DSP algorithms and architectures introduction. So, coming to the introduction, we first discuss why DSP is required. So, normally when I consider DSP, it is a digital signal processor. So, whatever signal we are going to process, those signals are digital signals. And DSP normally performs all the mathematical operations on any type of signals. And whenever I consider a signal, the signals are real-time signals and they are analog in nature. But the DSP what we are using cannot process this analog signals. Therefore, it has to be converted to digital form. So, we use analog to digital converter, that is ADC, in order to convert analog signal to a digital signal. Similarly, this is done at the input end or at the input side, as we can see in a typical DSP system. And once the signal is converted into digital, it is processed by the digital signal processor. And at the output side, we are using the reconversion process, which is done by using a DAC, that is digital to analog converter. So this is a typical DSP system which is used. Next is about a need of DSP. Why we go for DSP? See, whenever we consider analog signal processing that uses ASP, that is analog signal processor. But this ASP will have certain drawbacks or limitations, due to which we cannot use analog signal processing system. So we go for DSP. And what were the drawbacks based on which we switched on to DSP? The first thing is it is sensitive to environmental changes. So any changes in the environmental conditions will affect the analog devices. And aging, the aging of the device is also a part of a drawback when we consider analog signal processor. And also there is uncertain performance in a production units if I consider analog signal processor. So the performance is not certain. It is going to be affected depending on various factors and variation in performance of units. Whenever we consider the analog signal which is to be used for analog signal processor, there might be variation in the performance of units, and cost of the system will be very high compared to digital signal processing system. And we have scalability which cannot be done in analog. It is very difficult to scale a particular device whenever we go with analog system. Next is advantages of DSP. So why we look into a DSP? So we look into some advantages of DSP over ASP. So whatever we consider, that is with respect to ASP. The first thing is it has greater accuracy and it is cheaper compared to analog signal processor, and it is flexible, so that if any changes are to be done, it can be easily done through a set of code or by writing or by changing or modifying some lines in a program. So that is the flexibility, so which is not in ASP. And data storage would be easier in digital signal processing system, and implementation of better algorithms are obtained in DSP. So for processing we have better algorithms. Then it is adaptable to low frequency signal processing, and it is feasible. So these are some of the points what we consider as the advantages of DSP. Next is the disadvantages. So disadvantage is that the system complexity is increased when we go with the DSP in comparison with ASP, and it has got a limited bandwidth. So limited bandwidth is considered in a DSP so that its information will be limited. Then power consumption. The power consumption using a digital signal processor is higher compared to ASP. Then the application. So we have several applications for DSP systems. One is consumer electronic appliances. Normally it is a television system what we use, music synthesizers, stereos, recorders, etc. So these are some electronic appliances which uses DSP. And image processing techniques like image compression, image enhancement, image analysis and image recognition. So these are some of the applications and the process control what we consider, and the robotics. So DSP is used in robotics and normally in medical application like CT scans, X-ray scanning machines, MRI scan, ECG, EEG, etc. And also it is used for speech processing, earthquake monitoring system, and communication applications like modems, cell phones, fax, etc. Then coming to the digital signal processing system, we consider the input to the system is an analog signal, and this analog signal is having some distortions. So these distortions are to be removed, and these distortions are removed using anti-aliasing filter, because whenever we sample a particular signal for the signal processing system, there might be some aliasing effect which is due to improper sampling process. So we use anti-aliasing filter which is used to remove the anti-aliasing effect and filter out the unwanted component in a signal. And the anti-aliased filter signal is fed to A to D, that is analog to digital converter. So here the signal is converted from analog to digital. So here a proper sampling is done, and once the sample signal is obtained, so that is fed to a particular processor which is a DSP processor. And once the signal is sampled, some values are assigned to a particular signal, what we call it as a quantization. And similarly the DSP output is fed to D2A converter, where the signal is converted back to analog signal. And again the converted signal is passed to a particular filter which is again an anti-aliasing filter. So whatever we obtain, the signal at the output is same as the signal what we process at the input stage. So we can see that the first part of the signal is a continuous time signal, this, and we have a sampled signal. So this is a sampled signal and sampled data signal, where some values are assigned to a particular sampled data or a sampled signal, followed by a quantized signal. So quantized values are assigned. Here a proper quantization is done, and DAC output. So this is a digital to analog converter. So this is the analog signal what we consider similar to the input system. Then comes the sampling process. So that is the first part what we consider in a digital signal processing system. So the signal is sampled at a proper sampling interval or sampling time, or we consider if the signal is not properly sampled, if it is sampled at improper TS, what we call it as sampling interval, we get aliasing effect. So that is depending on Fs, that is a sampling frequency. So here we consider it as an Nyquist criterion. So that is Fs is greater than or equal to 2F max, which indicates that the sampling frequency must be greater than or equal to twice the maximum frequency component of a signal. So if I consider a signal, the value of Fs should be always greater than or equal to 2 times the maximum frequency component of the signal which is to be sampled. If the sampling process is not done according to a Nyquist theorem, then the reconstruction of the signal is not possible. It's very difficult to reconstruct the original signal. Just considering an example, if I consider Fs is 20 kilohertz, then F max should be greater than or equal to, less than or equal to 10 kilohertz. It means that the value of Fs should be always greater than or equal to twice F max. If I assume the value of F max is 10 kilohertz, then the sampling frequency should be greater than or equal to twice of this F max. Then coming to the first problem. So determine the Nyquist rate for the given analog signal. So an analog signal x of t is given, wherein we have to determine what is the Nyquist rate. So 3 into cos, so 3 is the amplitude of the signal, cos of 2 pi ft. So 2 pi ft. So 2 pi is nothing but 100, and 2 pi is nothing but 2 pi ft. So f is nothing but 100. So minus 6, so 6 is nothing but the amplitude of the signal, sine of 400 pi t plus 4 cos 60 pi t. So coming to the solution of this, the frequencies which are present in x of t is f1, f2 and f3. So f1, f2 and f3 corresponding to the components of the signal x of t. So f1 is 50 hertz, so 2 pi is nothing but 100, so it is 50 hertz. So what we get is f1 as 50 hertz. Similarly, f2 as 200 hertz, f3 as 30 hertz from the given x of t. The maximum frequency component f of x is nothing but f2, which is 200 hertz, because whatever I consider here from the component of x of t, it has got f2 as the maximum frequency component. So you can see that this is 200 hertz. Hence, as per the sampling theorem, the Nyquist rate should be twice of this highest frequency component in the signal x of t. So that is fs is 2 times f max, which is equal to 400 hertz. So in order to reconstruct, in order to get a proper sampling process done, we require the value of fs to be 400 hertz. Coming to the next problem. So here he says that find the minimum sampling rate for y of t such that no aliasing results. So there should not be any aliasing effect which results from this. Find the suitable anti-aliasing filter type of cutoff frequency if the sampling rate must be 6 kHz. So he says that this is the magnitude response of a filter given. So the frequency is specified in kilohertz followed by the magnitude in decibels. So here if I consider the maximum frequency component of the signal y of t, it is 5 kilohertz. So we can see that it is 5 kilohertz. Since beyond this amplitude it is very low. So we can see that the amplitude of the signal is low. Hence the minimum sampling rate should be twice of this particular maximum frequency component of the signal. So maximum frequency component of the signal is 5 kilohertz. So the sampling rate would be twice of 5 kilohertz, which is 10 kilohertz. Then the same thing, the inference about the problem using a sampling rate of 6 kilohertz resulting in aliasing error, which can be avoided using anti-aliasing filter. So we can see that by using a filter of cutoff frequency 3 kilohertz, which is a anti-aliasing filter, I can reduce the aliasing effect in the system. Then comes DTS, discrete time sequences. So here we just look into some of the expressions which are discussed based on a signal x of t and a signal x of n. So we consider a signal x of t and amplitude is a into cos of 2 pi ft. So 2 pi f is a component in the signal which gives us the frequency component of the signal x of t. Then x of nt is equal to a cos of 2 pi fn into t. So I am just checking the periodicity of the signal. So when n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, so we just substitute the value of n and we can see that the value of x of t is what, value of x of 2t is what, and so on. So x of n will be equal to a into cos of 2 pi fn into t, considering the value of n equal to 1. Value of n equal to 1. Then we have fs is 1 by t and also theta is 2 pi fn into t from the equation. And considering x of n, which is equal to this a into cos of 2 pi fn into t equal to a cos of 2 pi fn by fs, since we have just substituted or replaced t by fn by fs. So T is replaced by Fn by Fs, which is equated to theta n. So the entire term 2 pi Fn by Fs is replaced by theta n, and this theta represents the digital frequency. So we can see that theta is equal to 2 pi f by Fs radians. So this is how we determine the digital frequency. Then consider a periodic signal or a sequence x of n with a period given n. So x of n is equal to x of n plus n, where n takes its values, and it is denoted by x of e to the power j theta with a summation from n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n into e to the power of minus j n theta. So this is the expression what we get using a digital frequency theta. Then coming to a problem based on this, we have a signal x of t and it has got the frequency components 50 Hz. So f1 is 50 Hz, f2 is 250 Hz, f3 is 600 Hz. So these three constitutes the frequency components of the signal x of t, and it is sampled with 4 kHz sampling rate. So the sampling rate is specified as 4 kHz. Determine the resulting frequency, and it is in radians. So we know that the digital frequency is expressed in terms of a theta is equal to 2 pi Fn by Fs. So just assuming 1 for n, which is for the first frequency component of the signal, theta 1 is equal to 2 pi into Fn. So Fn is nothing but 50 Hz divided by Fs. Fs is the sampling rate or the sampling frequency, which is 4 kHz. So I have just substituted it, 50 divided by 4 kHz multiplied by 2 pi, giving me a digital frequency of 0.025 pi radians. Similarly with theta 2 giving me 0.125 pi radians for 250 Hz. Similarly with theta 3 we get 0.3 pi radians for 600 Hz. Coming to problem 4. The signal is sampled with 8 kHz sampling frequency. So again the sampling frequency to be noted given as 8 kHz. Determine the analog frequencies, which is in Hertz and radians per second, for a given digital frequencies of 0, pi by 4, pi by 3, pi by 2, pi and 3 pi by 4 radians. So these are the digital frequencies given, and analog frequencies, the corresponding analog frequencies are to be determined for this digital frequencies given. So we know that digital frequencies are 0, pi by 4, pi by 3, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 4 radians, and analog frequency is related to digital as theta into Fs. If I want to just convert it into radians per second, I just multiply the digital frequency by the sampling frequency, which is Fs. So that gives me the analog frequency omega. So omega will be equal to 0 in the first case. Omega will be equal to pi by 4 into 8 kHz. So 8 kHz is the sampling frequency. So that is pi by 4 into 8k, which is equal to 2000 pi. So that is 2000 pi radians per second is the analog frequency for pi by 4. Similarly for pi by 3. Similarly for pi by 2, and so on. So next is determining the analog frequency. So analog frequency is related to the analog frequency in radians per second, so that we can convert from radians per second to Hertz. That is F is equal to W by 2 pi, which is in Hertz. So if I just substitute it, I can just divide 2000 pi divided by 2 pi, that is omega by 2 pi, which is giving me 1000. So 1000 Hertz is the frequency. So this is what we consider to determine the digital frequencies, given digital frequencies, to identify the analog frequencies in Hertz and in radians per